I am absolutely thrilled to welcome Diandra Denier Fields to the podcast today. Diandra, or rather Dr. Fields, is a postdoctoral researcher in the field of lifestyle, diet, and dementia. And she is a two times cancer survivor and thriver, and the founder and creator of Cancer Free Haven, which is the course and support that she wished was available to her when she was first diagnosed with breast cancer. And more importantly than any of that, Deandra is also my business bestie. We've known each other now for about 2 years, and she keeps me on the straight and narrow. She's my accountability buddy. She's my motivation. She's my sometimes, Alison, you need a bit of a kick up the arse. And she is a real source of inspiration and light to me as well. So thank you so much, Deandra, for coming on the podcast today. I am delighted and so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Allison. It's been a joy to work with you for the past 2 years, and I hope that some of our insights are helpful to your audience on their business journeys as well.
Oh, they definitely will be. I know this already. So, in this part three of the podcast, this is where I am going to coach Deandra on a real life topic that means something to her to help her get one step closer, hopefully, on the next phase of her journey. And I think it's just helpful to kind of set up the conversation before we get started, just so we're both on the same page. So, when I say coaching, what I mean is a non directive, solution focused exploratory conversation that's aimed at helping you move forward and achieve a goal. Sometimes people say coaching and they mean like teaching, they mean giving advice, educating. And while that may come out sometimes in part of our conversation, actually, my role is not to give you advice. It's to create a space for you to do some thinking yourself around this and to come up with what feels meaningful and important to you. So I am like your thinking partner, your thinking facilitator. That's my role. And just to say as well, coaching is not counseling. So we're not straying into any territories around mental health or anything like that. So if I feel that in the conversation that we may be heading down that road, I'm just going to pause and gently lead us back to away from that area. So, does that make sense in terms of coaching? I would normally have had a much more detailed contracting conversation about how we're going to work
Mhm.
together, but because this is just 10, 15 minutes, I think it's just sometimes helpful. And so you know what to expect as well.
Wonderful.
Cool. Okay, so let's get started. So, Deandra, what would be helpful to talk about in the time that we have together today?
Yeah, so I think what would be helpful is what we referred to at the end of the second podcast, which is when your product or service really is helping someone who's truly in a rough patch, right? So we're not helping them to make $1 million or something like that, but you're doing something that's really serious and personal to you and personal to your clients. How do you navigate that without causing more pain to the person that you're trying to sell to? So, a big sales strategy is look at the pain points, tell them how their life is going to be worse if they don't work with you, things like that. And when you're dealing with something like you said, like mental health, or I'm dealing with cancer survivors that are in this fragile state already, how do I approach them with that loving kindness that's supportive and shows them, like, look, there is a way out, and I don't need to make you feel any worse than you are now. And then the other side of that is, and then when you're helping these people that really need you, how do you price yourself appropriately and not end up handing out a lot of, free courses or free books, or there's so much free material I see around these points where people are really struggling because it is hard to put a financial burden potentially on people who are in that position. Yet at the same time, knowing that in my own cancer journey, I spent $8,000 outside of my health insurance and everything that was covered on alternative treatments and seeking doctors. So I myself spent way more than what I'm asking, but yet at some points in time, I still feel a little guilty about having my product be a for profit and not necessarily a nonprofit.
Whoa, okay, you mentioned a lot there.
Yeah, so pick whatever you like.
Well, I think we only have time to kind of look at one today. So, what do you think would be the most helpful for you? You mentioned about approaching your potential sales or potential customers with loving kindness,
Mhm,
or how do you not feel guilty, or I guess give and receive value appropriately?
mhm.
So, what feels like it would be most helpful to talk about?
Yes. All right. Yeah, so I think the best, most valuable to your audience currently and to me would be how we approach someone with loving kindness when they're in a period of discomfort and pain already.
Okay, amazing. And in the time that we have, what would you like to leave with by the end of our conversation in relation to that?
Yeah, so I would like to leave with potentially one or two strategies on how to connect with new clients. So I have different avenues where I can find newly diagnosed cancer survivors or established survivors. So how do I broach that initial conversation if I see someone and I want to, just reach out and start that connection?
Amazing. Okay, so one or two strategies to help you reach out to
Mhm,
people who might be clients in a loving, kind way.
mhm. Yes.
And how would you say your approach is at the moment? If what we're aiming for is loving kindness, what's your current style?
So currently, one of the things that I have done throughout the past is participating in online groups and answering questions. So a lot of times there will be questions on, I'm in this phase, what do I do next? Kind of thing like that. And so I feel like that's an opportunity for me to show my expertise, share my story a little bit, and then I usually try to pose it in like a non-judgmental way of however you choose to go about this is your personal choice and do what's right for you. Usually, when I open that up, that can lead to future conversations.
And those future conversations are then you talking about your course and making that offer?
So far, I have not made the translation to that. So, what I used to do would be having these conversations and then sending them to my social media. So, I think my issue is that I haven't closed the loop on that and said, oh, now I have a product that can fill this niche. And I think more question on like, the appropriate timing, like how much do you build these relationships? Because we don't want to seem super salesy again at a point when someone's really struggling, but also we're not doing them a service if we don't talk about what we have to offer. So really balancing that.
Mm. So then just to clarify, when you said that, first of all, you would give some information, offer your experience, is that ticking the loving kindness box for you?
I think it does. I think it does because it's a lot of the online forums, people just want to hear that they're not alone, right? So I think that is really a good way to start there. So, how do I maintain that thread throughout into the sales? I think that's kind of the difficult transition. Like, you can start being like very authentic and working with this is my story, but how to transition that to a potential sale and balancing that and still being that compassionate, loving kindness. Yeah.
So it's really the next step that you want to
Hmm.
focus on. You mentioned about building that relationship and then transitioning towards the
Hmm.
sale in a way that doesn't feel so salesy.
Hmm. Exactly.
And you were saying that at the moment you don't really transition. It just kind of peters off once you get
Hmm.
people
Yeah,
through
yeah.
your
So
social
I'll
media.
give my story and then I'll say I talk about my cancer journey here on the social media, then send them to that and it really drops off. So I'm not necessarily nurturing the way I can get people to come across, but then yeah, there's this gap and I think part of it was me still working through my products, but as I'm approaching the end, this is a new phase where, yes, I have this is actually on sale. This is ready to go. You can buy it now and benefit from it now. So I think it's a different phase to focus on how I transition.
And you mentioned the word relationship there as well. So I'm just wondering to what extent is your current approach, which is directing them to your social media, hitting that relationship target that relationship goal that you want to achieve?
Yeah, so it's very surface level. It's barely, right? It's starting the conversation, but then it's not really maintaining that. So I think it's that's where part of my sales issues stem from is I have great people coming in, but if I'm not following up, then I'm not going to be making the sales.
So I'm hearing you can start. I'm hearing surface level. I'm hearing a lot of stuff coming from you towards the other person. And I'm wondering, how do you think it would be helpful to maintain or go deeper?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think I need more feedback from the other person. And maybe my hesitancy of creating that has come from I've found a few survivors that, once they tapped into the fact that I could answer a lot of questions, that they really like always needed more support, right? And so I couldn't necessarily transition that person into my coaching or into my course. So really like finding the boundary of like what I can provide to them in this messaging thing and what should I not answer, right? Because I would still do, some occasional one-on-ones for people to answer those things, but some people that, get free conversations, why would they buy a product, right? Because all their questions are being answered. So I think that's a struggle that a lot of business owners have.
Okay, so I'm hearing that it's about a reluctance from you, maybe, because in the past there's been a bit of freebies given.
Hmm. Hmm.
You said that you couldn't direct them to your course. Would your course have answered some of their questions?
So now, yes. Then, where it was then, no. So I've actually used some of those conversations to inform what I needed to add to the course. And now I actually have an option where I had my courses like all together 4 modules. I broke it apart and I have, if you're just diagnosed, this is part one, and you can do part one and part two. But if you've been around the block for a while, then you just go to part two. So I think this restructuring has allowed me to be able to like delegate people to, okay, you're here, this is where you can benefit, or you're here and you could benefit from this. And also having the option that I almost want to set a boundary that is like, first time you ask a question that I have not answered, it's free. That's a free pass and maybe each person gets one of those where like I will go through and I will help and I would like to create little like bonus things to put into my course as common topics come up. So if one question is over and over again, I've done lives that I can address these questions, I can record answers, and then send it out to everyone who's purchased.
That's an interesting idea in terms of you're getting something from the free
Mhm.
pass of the question. And then to what extent would having that boundary help you to feel more confident to then say, oh, and by the way, I have a course here because of your experience in the past where maybe
Mhm.
you felt that you've given a lot and that's not been reciprocated.
Yeah, yeah. So I think if I allow the one free pass per person, then it allows me to share openly about whatever question they have right now, but then with a built-in boundary of, but any further questions need to go through my coaching. It's an open and honest thing. And I have seen some people like on their social media, they will like openly say this, like, I can help you with this, and I am happy to do XYZ over messaging. But when it comes to this thing, I cannot do that, and it needs to go through the product. So the clearest kind. I think that's definitely a great route to go.
Clear as kind. So does
Mhm.
that approach do you feel like that loving kindness way, having some clear
Yes.
boundaries and better communicating them?
Yes, I think so. I think so. It definitely leads it to be that I can give because I've been told you need to stop giving your things away for free. And I'm like, I understand, but that's the kind of person I am. So it allows for some of that, but not so much that I'll be taken advantage of and, never really be able to get things off the ground.
Okay, so we've got the different parts of the course now in terms of different things that you could offer to people for different needs, which perhaps you
Mhm,
didn't have before. You have the idea around the kind of one freebie and better, more clearly communicating that as a boundary and how that would help you feel more confident to sell your course as well.
mhm.
Is there anything else that you think that you could do which would help to support that relationship in and make that offer in a loving, kind way?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's why I'm here for the coaching, right? Something else that I could do. Yeah, I think you had mentioned in the past, outside of this conversation today, of having like open question time, right? Of offering that at a certain time every month, either in person or virtually, to just have a chat with people. And yeah, I've thought about that as a potential option in the future of something I would do as far as like a membership. Like that, those are great things to have in memberships. So maybe working it in, I do lives. I could do one live that is with a co-host and one live that is me answering questions and just, having a chat and it being another avenue for people to really connect with me directly.
And from that, because what I'm sensing there is this notion of like the giving and receiving and the
Mhm.
um reciprocation between that as is important. Like if you feel that you have given enough, then you can ask or make the
Mhm.
offer.
Yes, yes. So I know a lot of people do webinars, and there's the one webinar where they hype up about how great their thing is like the whole time, and they never give you something actionable. And then there's the other webinar that is 90% actionable content, 10% sales. So I see myself leaning towards that 90% actionable because I don't want to just be there talking about myself, right? And trying to make money because I'm going to lose the person that I want to be selling to, right? I don't want the person that's just like, oh, here's my credit card. Like, I mean, that's the thing is with marketing, with good marketing, you can get lots of sales, but are you getting the right person? Are you getting your ideal client? And for me, the person that just clicks buy and doesn't think about it is not the person that's going to have success because they probably won't even open the course. So, yeah, I think that's kind of a part of it too.
Mm. At the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that you want to be able to broach the initial conversation with loving kindness.
Mhm.
Just tell me about your thoughts now, since that we have discussed a few different things, how you're feeling about that now and how you feel like you might be able to go about that.
Yeah, so I think I can go about that, one step further, which is it's great for me to go and find people and seek them out and pull them in. But I do have people that come to me too. So in the past, I've had, like a welcome message or email. I've actually made my welcome email chain, I've improved it to be more about that asking about the other person and where they're at, and feel free to contact me replying to this email. But I think I could do the same thing with the social media when there's a new follower. I could definitely add more to the conversation, sending that DM, thank you for following me, and having that kindness there. I've used it and it worked, but I didn't maintain it. So maybe it's just that I need to update what I'm sending and have that be accurate to where I'm at now.
So it's not just the broaching, it's the
Mhm.
maintaining, and the
Yeah.
maintaining comes with the asking questions and the one freebie.
Yeah. Yeah.
One freebie question. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being super confident and one not at all confident, where do you feel now in terms of, let's not say broaching, because that might not be the issue, but let's say just having the conversation with your clients in that loving, kind way?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say about an 8. I know there's always room for growth, right? Like we always are a little bit scared when we start something new. So if I said a 10, then I wouldn't be honest. But I think kind of laying it out and seeing all the steps is really helpful because I know that I have done it. I've already proved it to myself. I can do this. I have done it. I have the evidence. So it's just implementing those strategies that I've tested over time and putting them into one cohesive plan. Like I think I said in the first episode of this podcast that was talking about your strategy and how I have all of the things that I need to produce like lined up and timed out. And so why can't I do the same kind of thing for my outreach? These are the steps that I do, and here's the time frame. So I'm allowing time for people to read my message, think about it, come back. And I think that's been a great asset of some of the automation tools out there. Like I've created my email welcome series to give people so many days since they try a freebie to follow up on it rather than immediately sending it right away and saying, okay, you got this yesterday and you haven't opened it. What are you doing? Right. So I think, yeah, really just laying out all the steps has really helped. So
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. And let's just finish off with one final question. Tell me, what are you specifically going to commit to?
Yes. So I'm going to commit to specifically rewriting my welcome email, my welcome message for social media. So when I have a new follower, making sure that that's updated, and then implementing the strategy of when I reach out to new people, that I have that one free question, and that once I answer that, it's a transition into the sales of the products that I have so that I'm very clear and upfront that I can answer this. And then if they ask another thing, I would love to help and refer them to my coaching services or to my courses.
Amazing. And actually, I have one extra cheeky bonus question because I can see
Mhm.
this is so important for you. So, how would you know yourself if what you were doing wasn't in that loving, kind way?
Hmm. If I don't want to maintain doing it, that's a big red flag to me. So if it doesn't feel natural, then I won't keep doing it. As I've taken breaks and reworked my course and written new scripts, I see when things didn't seem true to me. And as I change them, it lights me up. I'm like, wow, like that's what I needed to say. So if I'm not feeling that it's loving kindness, I'm gonna stop doing it because it's not really hitting the nail on the head. It's not the right strategy. I will gladly do something when I'm 100% on board with what it is I'm doing.
I love that because actually what you have said there is that that means that everything that you're doing is A, intentional, and B, loving kindness by the fact that you're doing it. So just essentially being yourself and doing what you said you were going to
Mhm.
do is the thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is the kind thing, like helping out your customers and clients and making this amazing offer that could be so helpful to them.
Absolutely. Wonderful questions.
Thank you, Deandra. So, where can people find out more about you if they wanted to use your course, share it with a friend, share it with someone who might be going through something similar at the moment or has gone through breast cancer in the past? Because it is for people who are actively going through it and also people who have been through it. So, give us all your socials, all the ways to connect with you, please.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at cancer.free.haven. And also my website is cancerfreehaven.com. And so I have a couple different freebies. So I will not charge them against you, but I have free resources. One of them is the circles of control. And it's all about when you're in that mindset of anxiety and just really feeling lost, how do you put the things that are happening in your life into these three different circles to really focus on what you can do actionably right now, and then helping you to let go of the things that you really can't influence at all. So that is one of my favorite freebies, and it leads right into my course as well. So I have one lesson in the mental health module, the cultivating mindfulness, that is all going through that in detail. So if you like the freebie and you got a lot from that, then you can definitely check out the Thrive from the Start course from there.
Amazing. And I'll put all the details in the show notes as well, so you have them there. Thank
Wonderful.
you so much, Deandra. It has been incredible talking to you. It's been so inspiring. And I know that our listeners have got so much from this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. It's been wonderful as always, and I appreciate the coaching.
You're so welcome.